The elevator doors slid open on the 42nd floor of the Sterling Enterprises Tower in downtown Chicago, and Jake Harlan stepped out carrying a plastic tray with 2 hot chocolates and a paper bag of donuts balanced on top. It was 6:47 a.m., the city still dark outside the glass walls, and the only sound was the soft hum of the building waking up. He was early, like always. Being early meant the night janitors were still around to let him into the executive conference room so he could finish vacuuming before the bigwigs arrived. Being early meant he could clock the overtime that paid for Mia's insulin. Being early meant he didn't have to explain to his 8-year-old daughter why daddy sometimes came home smelling like floor polish and broken dreams. Jake rounded the corner toward the glass-walled office labeled A. Sterling, Chief Executive Officer in brushed steel letters. The door was cracked open. He froze. Inside, a woman stood with her back to him, silk blouse half unbuttoned, the soft glow of her desk lamp painting gold across bare shoulders. Her hair, the color of dark honey, was twisted up in a messy knot held by what looked like a Mont Blanc pen. She was reaching for something on the credenza, humming a song Jake hadn't heard since his wife used to sing it to Mia in the hospital. He should have backed away. He knew that, but the tray in his hand tilted, one of the hot chocolates wobbled, and before he could catch it, the lid popped off. Scalding cocoa splashed across Italian marble. The woman spun around. Time did that cruel thing where it slows to a crawl and speeds up all at once. Jake saw her face, really saw it, and the world tilted sideways. "Emily," he whispered. She stared back, emerald eyes wide, lips parted in shock. Jake, 10 years disappeared in a heartbeat. 10 years of cancer wards and funeral homes and court papers that said, sole custody, and nights when he cried into a pillow so Mia wouldn't hear. 10 years since the girl who once promised him forever had walked out of his life with nothing but a note that said, "I'm sorry, I can't watch you both die." And now she was here. Alexandra Sterling, billionaire CEO, on the cover of Forbes last month, standing half-dressed in front of the man who used to know every inch of her skin. The tray slipped from his numb fingers and clattered to the floor. Emily, Alexandra, took one step forward, then another, barefoot on the spilled cocoa. "Jake, what are you doing here?" He laughed once, a broken sound. "I clean your office, every night. Been doing it for 3 years. Her hand flew to her mouth. He bent to pick up the mess, same as he always did when life spilled all over him, but his knees shook too hard. The paper bag had split, donuts rolled like escaped moons. She knelt too, silk blouse forgotten, reaching for the same crushed cup he was. Their fingers brushed, electricity shot up his arm, same as the first time they'd touched in freshman psych at U of I. "I go by Alex now," she said quietly. "Yeah, I know," he swallowed. "Saw your face on the side of a bus last week. Hard to miss." She looked like she might be sick. "You live here, in Chicago, South Side, same apartment above the laundromat on 63 Road. Mia still sleeps with the bear you won her at Navy Pier." He hadn't meant to say that last part. It just fell out. Her eyes filled so fast it hurt to watch. How is she?" "Type 1 diabetic," he said, voice flat from telling the story too many times. "Diagnosed at 4. She's 8 now. Tough kid, draws pictures of you sometimes. Calls you, the pretty lady from Daddy's stories." Emily made a sound like a sob trying to stay quiet. Jake stood up, wiping his hands on the gray janitor pants that hid grass stains from coaching Mia's soccer team on weekends. "I should go. I've got the conference room on 40 and then the..." "Jake," he stopped. She was still on her knees in the spilled cocoa, blouse hanging open, looking more like the girl who used to steal his hoodies than the woman who owned half the skyline. "I am so sorry," she whispered. "Every single day for 10 years, I have been sorry." He wanted to scream. He wanted to hold her. He wanted to pretend the last decade had been a nightmare he could still wake up from. Instead he said, "I've got work to do." And he walked away, leaving her there in the mess he couldn't clean up. That was Tuesday. By Friday, Jake's life had detonated in ways he never saw coming. It started with a text from an unknown number. "Can we talk? Please?" He ignored it. Then an envelope slid under his apartment door containing a check for $50,000 and a note in handwriting he still knew by heart, "For whatever Mia needs." No strings. He tore the check into confetti and left it on the hallway floor for Mrs. Rodriguez next door to sweep up with her gossip. On Saturday morning, a black town car idled outside the laundromat while he folded tiny purple socks with cartoon dinosaurs. The driver got out holding a stuffed giraffe bigger than Mia. "Daddy, look," Mia squealed from the plastic chairs. "It's for me." Jake marched over, ready to tear into whoever. Alexandra Sterling herself stepped out of the back seat wearing jeans and a Cubs hoodie and sunglasses that couldn't hide the fact she'd been crying. Mia launched herself at the giraffe, then at Alex, hugging her legs without hesitation. "You're the pretty lady." Alex looked at Jake over Mia's head, eyes begging. He couldn't breathe. That night, after Mia was asleep clutching the new giraffe named Mommy Too, Jake sat on the fire escape with a warm beer and stared at the city lights that belonged to her now. His phone buzzed. "I was scared, Jake. I was 22 and terrified. Your wife was dying and the doctors said the baby might not survive and I thought if I stayed, I'd drag you both down with me. I thought leaving was mercy." He typed back before he could stop himself. Mercy would have been staying. 3 dots appeared, vanished, appeared again. "I know." He threw the phone onto the couch and didn't sleep. Monday, he showed up for his shift to find his timecard wouldn't scan. Security escorted him to Hour, where a woman with a tight bun handed him a folder. Inside, a job offer. Facilities Management Director. $185,000 a year. Full medical. 401k. Tuition reimbursement. At the bottom, a post-it in Alex's handwriting, "You're overqualified and you know it. Take the damn job, Harlan." He laughed until he cried in the elevator. He took the job, not for the money, though God, the money, but because the first line of the benefits package said, dependent coverage includes insulin pumps and continuous glucose monitors at 100%. He signed. The first month was torture. They saw each other every day. She found excuses to be in the facility's wing. He found excuses to ride the executive elevator. They danced around apologies and explanations in the giant crater where their past used to live. Then came the night of the Halloween carnival Sterling Enterprises threw for employees' kids. Mia dressed as Mirabelle from Encanto, curls bouncing, clutching a plastic jack-o'-lantern bucket. Jake wore the same tired dad costume he wore every year, exhaustion in a flannel shirt. He lost sight of Mia for 47 seconds. 47 seconds was all it took for his heart to stop. He found her on the makeshift stage where a professional magician had flaked last minute. Alex, dressed as a very embarrassed CEO in a store-bought witch hat, was letting Mia pull a stuffed rabbit out of a top hat while 500 kids roared with laughter. Mia spotted him in the crowd and yelled, "Daddy." Miss Alex's magic. Alex met his eyes across the lights and smiled the same crooked smile that used to wreck him in college. Something cracked open in his chest. Later, when the carnival wound down and Sugar Crash tears echoed under the big tent, Alex found him by the cotton candy machine. "I owe you more than one conversation," she said quietly. "Yeah," he said, "you do." They started meeting every Thursday night in the deserted executive cafeteria after Mia's bedtime. Jake would bring leftover donuts from the morning meeting. Alex would bring 2 mugs of coffee that cost more than his old weekly grocery budget. They talked about everything and nothing. She told him how her father died when she was 20-44 and left her a company drowning in debt and a mother who drank herself to death in Palm Beach. How she'd clawed Sterling Enterprises back from bankruptcy by living in the office for 3 years. How she'd named the foundation's children's wing after Mia without ever telling anyone why. He told her about burying Sarah at 26. About learning to give insulin shots with hands that still shook from grief. About singing Disney songs off-key at 3 a.m. while checking blood sugar. About how some nights he still reached for a wife who wasn't there. One night in early December, snow falling soft and thick against the windows, Alex reached across the table and laced her fingers through his. "I don't expect forgiveness," she said, "but I need you to know I never stopped loving either of you. I just loved you so much I thought walking away was the only way to save you." Jake looked at their joined hands. His were rough from years of fixing toilets and building IKEA furniture at midnight. Hers were manicured but trembling. "I hated you for a long time," he said. "Then I just missed you. Then I got tired. And then Mia started asking questions I didn't know how to answer. Like why some kids have 2 parents at school plays and she only has me. Or why the pretty lady in Daddy's old pictures never came back." Alex's tears fell onto the Formica table. "I'm here now," she whispered. "If you'll let me be." He brought her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles like he used to when they were 19 and the world was big and kind. Mia met Miss Alex, officially the weekend before Christmas. They baked cookies in the tiny apartment kitchen, flour everywhere, Christmas music too loud, Mia standing on a chair directing traffic like a tiny dictator. Alex let Mia put the star on the crooked tree even though she had to lift her up. Later, when Mia was asleep under a blanket fort, Jake and Alex sat on the couch with hot chocolate, no spills this time. Mia had left her drawing pad open. On the top page, 3 stick figures holding hands under a rainbow. One tall with brown hair and a tool belt. One smaller with purple curls. One with yellow hair and a witch hat. Underneath, in purple crayon, "My family." Alex traced the letters with a shaking finger. Jake pulled her into his arms, and for the first time in 10 years, she let herself cry the way she never had back then. Loud, ugly, healing sobs that shook them both. Outside, Chicago kept moving, millions of lives, millions of stories. Inside that tiny apartment above the laundromat, 3 hearts that had been shattered in different ways started, carefully, to piece themselves back together. It wasn't perfect. There were still nights Jake woke up reaching for Sarah. There were still board meetings where Alex had to be the Ice Queen CEO who fired people without blinking. There were still low blood sugars at 2 a.m. and arguments about whether 8-year-olds needed cell phones and the slow, terrifying work of learning to trust. Again. But there were also Saturday morning cartoons in a pile on the couch. There were dance parties in socks on hardwood floors. There were parent-teacher conferences where 2 adults showed up instead of 1. There was the day Mia called Alex, "Mommy," for the first time without thinking about it, then froze, terrified she'd done something wrong. Alex knelt down, tears streaming, and said, "I would be so honored, baby." And Jake watched them hug and thought maybe, just maybe, second chances weren't fairy tales after all. A year later, on the anniversary of the spilled hot chocolate, Jake Harlan, now Vice President of Operations, still wearing flannel under his suit jacket, stood in the executive conference room with a new plastic tray. 2 hot chocolates, one with extra whipped cream for the 8-year-old who was almost 9. The door opened. Alex walked in wearing the same silk blouse from that morning a year ago, hair in the same messy knot. Mia ran in behind her waving a piece of paper. "Daddy, look, I got accepted to the gifted program." Jake set the tray down carefully this time. Alex raised an eyebrow. "You brought props." He shrugged, grinning the grin that had been missing for a decade. "Figured we should recreate the moment. Only better." Mia tugged Alex's hand. "Mommy, tell him." Alex pulled an envelope from her blazer pocket and handed it to Jake. Inside, 3 plane tickets to Disney World. And a smaller velvet box. He opened it with shaking hands. A simple rose gold ring with a tiny diamond, nothing like the rock she could afford now, but exactly like the promise ring he'd given her at 21 that she'd never stopped wearing under her clothes all these years. Jake looked at the 2 people who owned every broken and healed part of him. "Alexandra Sterling," he said, voice rough, "you wrecked my life a year ago with a cup of hot chocolate. Any chance you'd wreck it again forever?" Mia squealed before Alex could answer, jumping up and down. "Say yes, Mommy, say yes." Alex laughed through tears and held out her hand. "Yes," she said, 1,000 times yes. And somewhere in the city, the elevators kept rising and falling, carrying people to destinations they never planned. But on the 42nd floor, a janitor turned VP slipped a ring on the finger of the CEO who'd once been his entire world, while their daughter danced in circles shouting that dreams really do come true. Sometimes life spills, sometimes you clean it up, and sometimes, if you're very, very lucky, the mess turns out to be the best thing that ever happened to you.